Hey everybody, welcome to the On Deck podcast presented by LineStar. I'm Shannon Sommerville. Tyler Weeman is off today. He's big leaguing us. No, he just has a fantasy football draft today. Big draft going on. We'll have to find out who he drafted. We'll find out from him tomorrow. We do have a special guest later in the show who will join us for our home run calls and prop picks. Eli, he's one of our engineers here at LineStar. He's also been having a lot of success in daily fantasy, so we can talk to him about that as well later in the show. But we'll get today's show started off, and I'm going solo for this. So let me know in the comments who you're taking in daily fantasy. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment below. Today is Cow Appreciation Day. It is Etch-a-Sketch Day. Who didn't have an Etch-a-Sketch when they were younger? It's also Amazon Prime Day. I don't know if you guys are doing some online shopping today. Let me know what you're purchasing in the comments. We will get to some MLB storylines for today, though. And Chris Sale making his 2022 season debut today. We'll definitely be talking about that in our projected pitchers for today. Also, Austin Riley slashing 463, 511, 951. with 5 home runs the last 10 games. And hey, Spencer Strider, he's getting his first career start against the Mets in a big NL East battle in Atlanta. We've got 14 games on the slate for today in DraftKings and 13 on FanDuel, so a big slate today. A few weather notes to get to for today. We do have 58% chance of rain at Yankee Stadium, where the Yankees are taking on the Reds. It will be 85 degrees, though, and there is some wind blowing out there in the Bronx. Mariners at Nationals. Another hot and humid game. 87 degrees, 68% chance of rain in this one. Keep an eye on that one. And I think that's kind of the theme, is hot and humid in a lot of places, which is great hitters weather, as it will be in Atlanta, 83 degrees there. Brewers at Twins, about 79 degrees, 35% chance of rain there. Dodgers at Cardinals, 87 degrees at Busch Stadium. Love those high temperatures for those bats. And Orioles at Cubs, 12% chance of rain there, 82 degrees. We've got 10-mile-an-hour winds to right over at Wrigley, and Padres at Rockies, 84 degrees, 9-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to left. So as always, be sure to like and subscribe and comment below. And now let's get to our chalk report. We're going to start off with some high-owned pitchers for today, and I'm just going off of LineStar's ownership projections. So we'll take a look at the highest owned for today, and that's going to be Yankees righty Garrett Cole, who's going up against the Reds today. Pretty much everyone's just getting on board the Cole train, and for good reason. So right now, ownership projections are saying about 42% owned on DraftKings and 40% owned on FanDuel. He's got a 3.26 ERA, 199 opponent average, and he's actually our second highest projected pitcher for today. He's also got the highest safety score. So this is a very comfortable matchup that is probably a little bit easier to predict, a lot lower variance in this one. So Yankees obviously the heavy favorite in this game, and when you look at the Reds lineup, they have a 23.1 strikeout rate versus righties, which is above average, so that bodes really well for Cole. Also, he's averaging 23.5 more fantasy points while at home. So Cole's in a great spot today. 27.83 fantasy points per game in 7 home games and 22.87 over the last 15 games. So we know Cole's in a good spot today going up against the Reds, whose bats can be pretty anemic. So a pretty safe bet there. Let's talk about Braves righty Spencer Strider going up against the Mets today. He's going to be our second highest owned today, 32.7% owned on DraftKings and 20% owned on FanDuel. He's got a 2.60 ERA, 1.68 opponent average. I mean, he's been dealing double-digit strikeouts in each of his last 2 games. Just absolutely on fire. Most recently struck out 12 in 6 scoreless innings. Allowed 2 runs on 2 hits last Thursday in a loss against St. Louis. He's just found his stride, so to speak, allowing 1 run on 8 hits. Well, listen to this, compiling a 30-3 strikeout to walk ratio in 18 innings over 3 starts. He's just been phenomenal. Now, Atlanta's actually heavily favorited in this matchup. The Mets do I know they do have the highest average against righties. However, they have a much lower ISO versus righties, which says, they're not really putting the bat on the ball, not as much power versus righties. So that's something to consider in this one. Strider has scored 31.77 fantasy points per game the past 3 games. He's also got the second highest safety score. So when we're looking at our top projected pitchers, these are all guys who are pretty safe. These are really great bets to hit those fantasy points for you, especially with Spencer Strider and Garrett Cole. You're going to get some strikeout stuff in there as well. Next, we're going to look at Giants righty Logan Webb going up against the D-backs today. He's about 29% owned on DraftKings and 23% owned on FanDuel. Logan Webb is Linestar's third highest projected pitcher for today. He's got a 2.98 ERA, 2.34 opponent average, and the Giants are heavily favored in this matchup. Now, when we look at a guy like Webb, he's not as high of a strikeout guy as the previous two we talked about with Strider and Cole, but he's in a really good spot today going up against Arizona, who has a 22.6% strikeout rate versus righties. And the D-backs also have the third lowest average versus right-handed pitching, so in a great spot. Also, below average WOBA versus righties. And Webb has averaged 24.3% more fantasy points at home. This game is in San Francisco at the pitcher-friendly confines there. However, one thing to note is Arizona does have a 159 ISO versus righties, and that's a little bit higher than MLB average. And Webb is bottom 20% in terms of barreled balls allowed in the past 30 days. So hitters are getting their barrel on the ball when they've faced him. So it's just something to note there. Although he still is third highest in terms of Linestar's safety score, which kind of takes a look at variance. So there's not as much variance with this one. He's a pretty safe bet to have a pretty good outcome there. So those are our high-owned guys for today. And guys, we can pretty safely say we'll be in a good spot to have a good outcome for you in daily fantasy. But let's take a look at some lower-owned pitchers and maybe where we can find a little variance and a little bit more leverage. First, we're going to talk about Nationals righty Josiah Gray going up against the Mariners. Now, he's just 8% owned on DraftKings, 2% on FanDuel. He's actually Linestar's second highest leverage play of the day. He's got a 4.4 ERA, 2.22 opponent average. Gray's 7-5 on the year. He earned the win Wednesday after he pitched 6 innings. He did surrender 2 runs on 4 hits and a walk. He did strike out 11, though, against the Phillies. Mariners are hot. I get it. They're on an 8-game win streak, but they're still just 22nd in the league in average against righties. Seattle's lineup also has a 21.8% strikeout rate versus righties. That's higher than the average, and Seattle's lineup also has a 307 WOBA versus righties. So we're looking at a below average number there as well. So Josiah Gray's actually in a pretty good spot in terms of the ownership is low, and we have a nice high leverage play right there. Taking a look now at Boston Red Sox lefty Chris Sale going up against the Rays. Yep, Chris Sale is back after missing about the first half of the season with a stress fracture in his rib cage. He was shaky in his final rehab outing. I think everyone knew about that because he made that performance known and kind of tore up the visiting clubhouse of the minor league team after that start. He was not happy with himself in that performance. He walked 5 batters in 3 2/3. But the Red Sox had decided, you know what, he's still ready. So we do expect some workload limitations in this one. However, given he's topped out 4 innings across 4 rehab appearances, we're probably looking at like an 85 pitch max in this one. So that's something to keep in mind. However, he's going to be making his debut at Tropicana, which is one of the most pitcher-friendly stadiums in the country. Also, Tampa Bay's lineup has a 24.6% strikeout rate versus lefties. That's extremely high. Their lineup also has a 290 WOBA versus lefties. That's well below average. And they have a 100 ISO versus lefties. That's anemic. So he's in a great spot today to come in. And we know what Chris Sale is capable of. there is obviously, it's a bit of a risky play, especially given the limitations on his pitch count. But if he does have a good game, we can definitely see some high strikeout numbers, and he has the potential to put up a really good game for you in daily fantasy. The next one is White Sox righty Dylan Cease. He's at the Guardians today, 34% owned on DraftKings. Now, this game isn't included on the FanDuel slate, but I did want to mention it because not only is this one of the biggest all-star snubs, by the way, which I think we can all agree he deserves to be in Los Angeles for that. Today, he's LineStar's highest projected pitcher and highest leverage score. So basically, LineStar's just loving Dylan Cease today. Not just because he's got a phenomenal mustache, but yeah, he's a strikeout machine. He's top 10 in ERA at 2.45, 2.05 opponent average, and he ranks third in strikeouts. Cease also credits his off-speed command to one of the reasons he's having such a successful start. And I saw recently that he said that he actually wrote a poem dedicated to his slider while listening to piano music in the shower. And then after that game, he ended up having 11 strikeouts using that slider, which I thought was pretty awesome. He hasn't allowed more than one earned run in 8 starts. He's just been on fire. He's fanned 8 batters or more in 5 of the last 6 starts and has allowed 1 earned run or fewer in the last 8. Cleveland's lineup has a 120 ISO versus righties and a 303 WOBA versus righties as well. Now, Chicago heavy favorites in this one, although they do have pretty good numbers against him, 293 in 46 plate appearances. Not a huge sample size, but just something to take note of. But LineStar's loving Dylan Cease today. Also, with every strikeout he records, he is not only helping your fantasy team, he's also helping the environment. He works with this organization that plants trees for every strikeout. So if you have him on your team, you can feel like you're doing something for the environment as well. So a nice deal there. So that's a look at our pitchers for today. Now let's get into some stacks and how you can kind of attack this slate today. First, we're going to talk about our high-owned stacks for today. And once again, it's going to be Padres, Rockies. We're really liking this game in terms of the implied run total. It's got the highest of the day. Got that Coors Field effect working. As I mentioned, temperatures are warm and wind is blowing out at Coors Field, so we certainly expect some fireworks on offense there. San Diego is going up against Rockies lefty Austin Gomber. Gomber has a 6.46 ERA, 2.95 opponent average. And at home, those numbers are just a little bit worse. 6.64 ERA and 3.29 opponent average. So that bodes well, certainly, for those Padres bats. Now taking a look at San Francisco Giants going up against the D-backs. I think everyone's kind of going here because it's the lefty Dallas Keuchel on the hill for the Diamondbacks. And he's got a 7.63 ERA, 3.24 opponent average. Now, he was a little bit better in his last outing, 3 earned runs in 7 innings pitched. I'm not sure how I feel particularly about this stack, so I'm going to kind of list out some reasons why you could go with it and maybe why to stay away. So he's actually our lowest, so Keuchel's our lowest projected pitcher on LineStar today. So certainly our algorithms certainly don't expect Keuchel to have a breakout performance by any means today. Also, San Francisco's lineup has a 347 WOBA versus lefties. That's above average. And their lineup also has a 193 ISO versus lefties. Also another metric that's above average. So good numbers against lefties. Here's why you might want to reconsider this. The Giants are 20th in average versus left-handed pitching. So even though some of the metrics are there, overall they haven't been phenomenal. And the thing that gives me pause with this game is it's going to be really cold. Temperatures are in the 60 in San Francisco, or below 60 in San Francisco, so it will be favorable to pitchers. Like I mentioned, Keuchel is coming out a better outing. And also, San Francisco's lineup has a 23.9 strikeout rate versus lefties, so this could be a situation where Keuchel actually might have a better outcome. But there's just some reasons for why you might want to stack and why you might not want to. Given that ownership is really high on this, I'm tending to kind of stay away from that. However, I can certainly see the argument for getting them into your lineup. Now let's take a look at some lower owned stacks here. And I'm going to look at the New York Yankees, which actually on our Linestar projections for ownership, they're not high owned yet, probably because they're going to be coming in pretty pricey. But the Yankees are going up against Reds righty Graham Ashcraft. So our highest projected stack for today includes LeMahieu, Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, and Josh Donaldson. The Yankees have the fourth highest average in the last 14 days, so some red-hot bats coming in, going up against one of probably the worst teams in baseball right now, so favorable matchup for the Yankees, obviously. And Ashcraft has a 4.35 ERA, 2.71 opponent average, but righties are absolutely crushing him, 3.37 average for them. And the Yankees lineup has a 3.46 weighted on base average versus righties and a 1.96 ISO versus righties. So much higher than your league average on those stats. Plus, wind is blowing out to left 12 miles an hour in the Bronx. Warm temperatures. Not going to be a good day for Graham Ashcraft, but it will probably be a good day for those Yankees bats. Now let's take a look at the Detroit Tigers going up against Royals lefty Kris Bubic today. Kris Bubic has a 6.84 ERA, 3.01 opponent average, and he got shelled by the Astros last time out. He gave up 2 home runs in that game. Lefties are batting .396 against him, and Bubic is also worse at home. He's got a 7.77 ERA with a 3.10 opponent average. So it might be a really good day to put in some Tigers lefty bats. So maybe consider Riley Green, Harold Castro. So I think we're really targeting. It's also at Kauffman Stadium, so a hitter-friendly venue there. On the other side of that matchup, we're looking at the Royals going up against Beau Brieske, the Tigers righty. The Royals have the second highest average over the past 14 days. They've been on fire at the plate, and Brieske has the 4.16 ERA, 2.37 opponent average, but he is much worse on the road. He's got a 5.13 ERA on the road, 2.50 opponent average. Again, this is at a hitter-friendly Kauffman Stadium where temperatures are going to be warmer. So Linestar is certainly liking those projections for today for some lower owned stacks. As always, make sure to double check the weather on these, and you can certainly find more projections and analytics and everything you need to optimize your lineup at linestarapp.com. Make sure to sign up now for your subscription. It's $19.99 per month. Prices will go up for football season to $29.99. Certainly still a great deal, but if you lock it in now before football season starts, and it can be your one-stop shop for all of your daily fantasy baseball needs, all your prop bets, all the research that you need for football season, make sure to check that out. Now it's time for our sleeper picks of the day. And our sleeper pick on DraftKings is going to be Padres outfielder Nomar Mazara, still coming in around $2,000, and a great matchup for him at Coors Field today, where the highest implied run total of the day is, and Mazara scored 10 fantasy points per game the past 2 games, so he's been on a hot streak. He's also a top 10% hitter versus left-handed pitchers with a 2.36 fantasy points per plate appearance. And, of course, going up against the Rockies lefty Austin Gomber. So favorable numbers for Nomar Mazara today, coming in at a nice value bargain price of $2,000 on DraftKings. Now let's take a look at our FanDuel sleeper pick of the day, and it's going to be Red second baseman Jonathan India, coming in at $2,400. Nice value there. He'll be batting leadoff, which is great for fantasy purposes. Last game, he racked up 22 fantasy points. Love to see that, especially at that price tag. Wind will be blowing out to left at 11 miles an hour at Yankee Stadium today, so that's favorable for all the hitters there. He is a top 15% hitter versus right-handed pitchers with 2.64 fantasy points per plate appearance, although slightly risky because he's going to be going up against Garrett Cole and the Coltrane, but still at that price tag, $2,400, might be worth a little gamble there. So those are your sleeper picks of the day. Remember, for more analytics, statistics, and all of our projections, you can visit linestarapp.com. Make sure to lock in that subscription now. It's $19.99. We'll drop the link below. Make sure to check it out. Now it's time for our home run calls of the day, and I'm here with our very special guest today, Eli, who is one of our engineers here at LineStar and also a daily fantasy star. You just had a takedown yesterday, so first of all, tell us about your takedown yesterday.
Yeah, so I had a pretty good night, about $1,900 profit. I stacked the Padres. Can't go wrong with that. They're playing at Coors Field.
Okay. So lunch is on Eli today, I guess.
Yep.
He's also a TikTok star. If you haven't, you can follow him.
Something like that.
Well. So Eli basically is one of the people behind all of the awesome LineStar site and the mobile app as well. So he gets it going. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to these home run calls. So for your first home run call on the On Deck podcast, who are you going to pick today, Eli?
I am going to go with none other than Kyle Schwarber. You can't really go wrong with him. He's one of my favorite players, and he has a great matchup. He's crushing righties right now, and Barrios is actually struggling against lefties. So he's
torching the ball.
Yeah,
5 home runs in the last week.
Yeah,
great pick, Eli. I like that pick for today.
I'm
going Manny Machado, who probably helped your team out yesterday in daily fantasy because he had a home run yesterday. I think he's going to have another one today. He has a .620 slugging percentage versus lefties. And this is a guy going up against the lefty Austin Gomber today at Coors Field. Gomber giving up a .318 average, .572 slugging to righty bats. So certainly favorable numbers there. Plus the Coors Field effect. And now that I think he hit that home run, I think he's going to be feeling it, getting that confidence. I think Manny Machado is going yard as well. Remember to follow along with our home run contest on Twitter. You can retweet us for a chance to win free LineStar subscription or just $25 cash. So be sure to check that out as well. Now we're moving along to our prop bets of the day. And all you have to do is hit the like button on YouTube, be subscribed to the channel, and comment below. That's all you got to do. If both of us get our picks correct, Eli, one randomly selected commenter will get $60.
Awesome.
Nice little deal. So remember,
free money.
Yes, exactly. So our picks are available at Prize Picks. So you can just go on there and pick them yourselves as well. Now, who are you going with for your prop bets for today? Where are you headed?
All right. So for Prize Picks, I'm going Eduardo Escobar and Dylan Moore for both to hit over 0.45 total bases.
Gotcha.
I have both of them projected at a little over 1.5. So they're in a really good spot.
Easy. Nice. I'm going Giancarlo Stanton over 1.5 bases. I had to go with a Yankee. You know what I mean? He's hit this mark. He's actually only hit this mark in 3 of his last 8 games, but today he's going up against the Reds, and it's the righty Graham Ashcraft for them on the hill. Righty bats are averaging .337 against Ashcraft this season, and Giancarlo's got an .851 OPS against righties. Plus, the Reds also have the worst bullpen in baseball right now, so if he doesn't get to Ashcraft, I think he'll at least get to the bullpen. They give up about, their ERA's over 5.
Something like that,
yeah. So some favorable matchups for the Yankees. They're one of our top stacks for today as well. See a nice Yankee stack for today. But
can't go wrong with the best team on MLB right now.
Right? All right. Eli, thanks so much for helping us out here today. I don't know if you knew it, but today is National Etch-a-Sketch Day as well.
Ooh.
Did you ever have an Etch-a-Sketch as a kid?
Probably.
It's also, I think the other days that we celebrated on the top of the show was, Cow Appreciation Day. That's a weird one.
Oh, that's a weird one.
And I know it's Amazon Prime Day for a lot of people are doing online shopping today. So have you bought anything?
I actually bought iPhone chargers.
Ah, there you go. Practical.
Yeah.
I haven't bought anything yet. Let us know if you're buying anything on Amazon Prime Day. I'm actually really curious. All right, that's going to do it for us today on the On Deck podcast. Special thanks to Eli for jumping in with us today. We'll have to find out who Tyler took in his fantasy football draft. We'll find that out tomorrow on the show, so be sure to tune in for that. Good luck to you in all your daily fantasy and your prop betting. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
Thank you.